Picture this. You're the president of the United States. Your economy is on the brink, and you make an urgent private demand to your closest ally, your neighbor. You're expecting a negotiation, maybe some back and forth. What you get instead is a single word, a word that changes everything.
Just no. That one word, from the Canadian Prime Minister to the U.S. President, didn't just start a fight. It kicked off an economic crisis that sent a shockwave across the entire continent. So today, we're going to break down exactly how that simple rejection became such a massive deal. Let's get into it.
All right, so the story really kicks off in late 2025. The American economy is feeling some serious heat, and President Trump thinks he's found the solution. And that solution, it runs right through Canada. He makes a critical request, something he believes is absolutely essential for America's future. Now, what's really wild is the sheer audacity of this demand. This wasn't just about buying some equipment. No, the U.S. wanted to cut the line for massive things like high-capacity excavators and turbines, stuff that has multi-year waiting lists. They were literally asking Canada to tell other international buyers, sorry, your contract doesn't matter, and to put America first.
So you might be asking, why was Canada's answer such a big deal? Well, it's because of this number right here. They supply nearly a quarter of all heavy industrial machinery to the United States. They're not just some trading partner, they are a critical, vital link in the American supply chain. That 22%, that's why a simple no had the force of an economic earthquake.
So why would Canada do it? Why risk poking their biggest trading partner in the eye? Well, the answer isn't really about the demand for machines. It's about a decision the U.S. had made months earlier, a decision that completely poisoned the well and basically made this no an absolute certainty.
And here it is. This was the original sin, if you will. Back in June of 2025, the U.S. just walloped Canadian aluminum with a massive 50% tariff. It was a super aggressive move, meant to protect American jobs. But what it actually did was create the very crisis the U.S. was now trying to escape from. Talk about a policy backfiring.
And you can see the damage right here on this chart. I mean, look at that plunge. In just a year, U.S. aluminum inventories absolutely cratered, down by 60%. The tariffs didn't just sting Canada. They starved American factories of the raw materials they were desperate for. So by the time the U.S. came begging for machinery, they'd already shot themselves in the foot. So you've got the U.S. in a bind, one they pretty much created themselves. Canada has a choice to make. Do they throw them a lifeline, or do they do something else entirely? What cards are they going to play? Well, they chose something else, and it was bold. Instead of just reacting, Canada launched one of the most ambitious economic plays in its entire history. This wasn't about defense. Oh no. This was a calculated, offensive strategy to basically bypass America and forge its own economic destiny. And this timeline just shows you how incredibly fast this all went down. It's kind of staggering. In early 2025, gas is flowing south to the U.S., business as usual. But then, bam, January 10th, 2026. That's the turning point. The first huge shipment of Canadian liquefied natural gas goes out, not south, but west, to Asia. And almost instantly, the gas flowing to the U.S. gets slashed by nearly half. And make no mistake, this wasn't just a temporary little tactic. This pivot was backed by an absolutely colossal investment. We're talking $116 billion. That's a nation-building level project designed specifically to build new pipelines and ports that face Asia, not the United States. This table just lays it all out perfectly. The main customer is no longer the U.S., it's Asia. The product itself changes from simple natural gas to the much more valuable LNG. But here's the kicker, the price point. Asian markets were happy to pay 30 to 40% more. Canada basically realized it had been giving its neighbor a discount for years, while a premium market was just waiting across the ocean. And if there was any doubt about what Canada was doing, Prime Minister Mark Carney spelled it out for everyone. This quote, made during a trip to Beijing, sent absolute shockwaves through Washington. This wasn't just a trade tiff anymore. This was a public breakup, a declaration that the trust at the heart of the North American alliance was broken. Okay, so what does all this geopolitical chess actually mean for regular people? Well, this is where the consequences of that one-word answer, no, start to trickle down from the halls of power and land right in American living rooms. This right here is why the crisis gets personal. Take a look. Almost half of all American homes are heated with natural gas.
that huge slice of the pie represents millions of families who are now directly vulnerable to this sudden drop in supply from Canada. This isn't some abstract economic theory. This is about staying warm in the winter.
And you can just trace the dominoes as they fall. First, the gas supply from Canada shrinks. That immediately makes energy more expensive for everyone. That price hike hits huge American industries like Ford and GM, making it costlier to build everything. And where does it end? It lands squarely on families in the form of much bigger home heating bills. And to put a really sharp point on it, we're talking about families in northern states like Michigan and Minnesota potentially seeing their heating bills jump by as much as 30%. That is a real, tangible cost paid by millions of people, all stemming from that initial diplomatic breakdown. So when you pull the camera back, what is the big takeaway from all of this? This whole saga really boils down to a fundamental clash over what power actually is in a modern economy. It's a tale of two very different strategies, and one came out the clear winner. On one side, you have the U.S. strategy. Make demands, use pressure, slap on tariffs, and the result? A self-inflicted crisis and a desperate dependence on the very country they were trying to bully. But on the other side, you have Canada's strategy. Build leverage. They didn't just say no. They built new pipelines, found new customers, and gave themselves options. The result for them? Strategic independence. And that right there is the key, leverage. It's not about being the biggest or shouting the loudest. It's power you can actually use because you control something the other side needs. And this is the crucial part. You have other places you can sell it. Canada built real leverage. The U.S. was just left with empty demands. And this whole new power dynamic is about to get its first major test. The big North American trade deal, the USMCA, is up for a mandatory review in July 2026. And for the first time in a long, long time, it's going to be Canada, not the United States, walking into that negotiation holding the best hand.
Which brings us to our final big question. What's the real cost of thinking you're the only customer that matters? It's not just paying a higher price. It's the shock you feel the moment you realize you're no longer the customer they need the most. And that's a lesson for any country, big or small, in a world where everyone's always looking for a better deal.